Hello again, Tara McNamara. We are back for the 20th and final film in this fascinating month-long spotlight that we've been doing about pre-code and post-code enforcement movies. Now we're going to show our second feature about Gangster Molls. This one is Marked Woman from 1937, directed by Lloyd Bacon and starring Bette Davis and Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah.
What a great pairing, as always. And this one is interesting because even though it says at the beginning, this is a fictional story, no characters are meant to be like any real people, it's essentially the Lucky Luciano story, right?
Right. I mean, that's exactly what it is. So you'll never trust those disclaimers again. Probably they didn't want to get in trouble with the mobsters in any way. But yeah, so this trial had just happened. And in a similar situation where the working girls of Lucky Luciano turned against him, and including one woman whose face had been slashed.
So in this movie, Bette Davis is a nightclub hostess at a clip joint, as it's called, and she's severely mistreated by her mobster boss. As the film goes on, you see this group of women that are all working together who at first are unsure about how to deal with this situation. Should they band together? Should they not? But as the movie goes on, I think it's really interesting to see the evolution of their group relationship.
Part of the evolution is that, as we said for another movie, hussies can't have happiness, right? And so how are you going to pay as a gun moll or a gangster, a woman who works for a gangster? You've got to pay the price. And her character, Mary, pays the price.
Yes.
And it's through the different ways in which she is, abused in some ways and other things I don't want to give away, that the girls finally really unite and they decide to turn state's evidence.
Now, obviously, because this is a later film in the 1930s, some things are softer, right? Instead of explicitly being prostitutes, they're nightclub hostesses, right? And murders are shown off camera. So there are things in this film that people will notice that are quite different from a pre-code version of a similar story.
Yeah, exactly. And there is a scene where the slashing of the face happens. And so Joseph Breen, who was ruling the code at the time, he said that that needed to happen off camera and that they needed to subdue the audio. And that was something that would come up a lot. To make things less gruesome, he would say, okay, well, you can kill them, but you can't hear it.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's also fascinating to learn about, in the real life case, the prosecutor was a woman named Eunice Carter, who was the first Black female prosecutor in that region. And wouldn't it have been great if in this movie, the Humphrey Bogart prosecutor character would have been given to a Black female actress, but in 1937, what were the chances?
So I'm the chair of the Women's Committee for the Critics' Choice Association, and we look at representations. And representation is something we now know is really important. People need to see themselves on screen. The fact that while we love Humphrey Bogart in this part, and it creates this sexual chemistry between him and Bette Davis, oh my gosh, the lost opportunity for all of these young Black women to see something based on a real case where Manhattan's first female Black prosecutor brings down this vice ring. And part of the reason she did is because they had put her on women's cases in the women's court. And she's the one who discovers whenever we bring in these vice cases, it's the same bail bondsman. It's the same attorneys that Lucky Luciano uses. So she was really clever.
Tara, it's been an absolute joy and pleasure being with you all month here on TCM. Thank you so much for joining me all month long.
Thank you for having me. This has been just an amazing time.
Well, now let's enjoy the film from 1937. Here are Bette Davis and Humphrey Bogart in Marked Woman.